Praxis-Podcast zu Liberating Structures. Das Interview in dieser Folge wird ausnahmsweise auf Englisch stattfinden, deswegen wechsle ich jetzt schon die Sprache. Liberating structures are methods for collaboration. They help people to interact and create meaningful results together. You can experience the power of liberating structures when you use them. This podcast exists to inspire you to use the structures yourself. My name is Anja, and together with Katharina, Christian, and Karin, we interview the authors of the German language Liberating Structures field guide, Einfach zusammenarbeiten. If you are a practitioner of liberating structures yourself and you don't speak or read German, make sure you follow Anja Ebers and Birgit Nieschalk because Something English is coming up. I'll link to both of them in the show notes. Now, in this episode, I'm speaking with Susanne Taylor, and although Susanne does speak German, we decided up front to do the interview in English. So hello, dear Susanne. It is so nice to finally speak to you and see you on Zoom.
Hi, Anja. Yes, thank you. Thanks so much for doing it in English. I come across a little bit more authentic. And funny enough, most of the time I'm using the structures, it's in English.
I'm so looking forward to this interview because you have co-authored a story together with Birgit Nieschalk, who's my dear colleague every day. I get to work with her every day, so we have somebody in common. Birgit talked about the chapter you both wrote in another episode, so we decided to have the interview just with you and focus on you in this one. Let's do a brief intro. Who are you, and in which roles or in which role are you using liberating structures?
I don't know how deep you want me to go or how broad, but yes, as you can hear from my accent, I'm an American. It took me a long time to admit that because I grew up in Alaska. So I would say I'm an honorary Canadian. But I've lived here in Munich for, wow, almost 15 years. That's crazy. And I'm often in roles of, I would say, team building. I call myself a team alchemist and facilitation. My goal is always to support people in working better together. So my last role was actually at a fintech here in Munich, and I had the privilege and honor to be their agile coach and sort of an organizational lead. So I was responsible for, I don't know, pretty much every interaction from team to whole organization. So yeah, any kind of team event or organizational meeting, I was there supporting the organization or the I would just call it like how people were working together. My focus was on the culture and supporting the culture. I always say my work is focused on enabling and empowering people to do their best work together.
It's like working together and collaboration scales from one to one, a little team, a big team, or the whole organization. And the role you're describing does exactly that, right? Like to try and see how can we work together better using, for example, liberating structures on all levels, like in all group sizes and constellations.
Yes, yeah. And then that's the beauty of it. The structures, not every structure, but this entire menu, you can use them for yourself. You can use them in your family. You could use them in a team, and you can use them in a community, whether that's a whole company or it's a group of people who are trying to accomplish something together.
Mm. What helped you to gain experience using liberating structures? What was maybe your path into liberating structures, and how did you grow as a practitioner?
Well, funny enough, so I have a twin sister and she's in Berlin, and she brought them with her from Seattle. She had met both Keith and Henry and knew that I would absolutely love them. And she started using them and introducing people in Berlin to them. And at the same time, I was here in Munich going, I want to create some sort of community of practice. I want to support people who are in my role as some kind of a facilitator or team supporter, leaders. I was working with lots of leaders people who are trying to support groups. And I know that communities of practice are environments where people can be, where it can be messy and they can try stuff out because they're too afraid to try things in their own companies, their own spaces. So we did first I think I did a little mini workshop, and then we started the community of practice. And I'm an active experimenter. So that's pretty much how I learn everything, just by doing, practicing. So the community of practice here in Munich was one way that I did that. And then just using them at my company. And whenever I did work, it made sense because I was a facilitator for 20 years. And what I saw in Liberating Structures was that these are all the methods that I already knew, but in really clear formats. And so in my mind, it was almost like the search function was a lot easier. And I could quickly go, oh, I need to accomplish this. Oh, yes, I could do it with that. And it was all packaged for me right there. It had a name, it had timing, it had everything.
So I hear that you have a very broad and also deep practice and experience with liberating structures. Now, at some point in time in the past, Birgit and Anja came along with the book project saying, hey, we want to write a field guide to showcase how liberating structures are used. Now, if you have a large repertoire of experience and places you've used it, it's very hard to make a decision of what to write about. How did you come to write about your story? How did the process go? Like, how did you decide for that story you wrote together with Birgit?
Funny enough, it was actually very easy because I had just hired Birgit to support me in facilitating the company retreat, company offsite. And because it was, what was that, February? No, it wasn't February. It was fall. So it must have been September or October of 2020. So, right, we'd just gone through the first wave. We really wanted to get everybody who felt safe in the company together to do, this important work of reconnecting and feeling safe and being productive and doing our work. And Birgit agreed to support me in making the event connective and playful and fun, and also deeply impacting, because people needed to feel like that work mattered, because we were also focused on sort of just surviving this pandemic thing. And of course, because we were all separated, there were lots of topics that were dangling out there and unaddressed. So the offsite was a perfect opportunity. And we ended up, it was super easy to choose what we were going to write about because we both had the experience. And I was I wasn't as confident writing in German. And this is why Birgit and I decided to do it together. I said, well, yeah, I'll write. I'll use DeepL. That's my secret weapon. And yeah, you can help me with the editing. And because we both experienced it, we made sure that there wasn't some aspect that was forgotten.
I love that. And in the center of the story is the structure and development. We're not going to talk about the story in the book in this podcast so much. We're just going to teaser it. But I can tell you that in the center of the story is the structure and development, the caravan consulting. And you've just talked about the topics that were dangling and that were like all over the place and people coming together. I think that's a very clever solution. And the layout and design that you describe of the workshop really talks to that. So I encourage people to read the story in the book. It's called Ein Caravan mit Aussicht, from page 138 in the book, if you read German. Outside of the story, in your experience, do you have a favorite structure? Is there one structure that you always go to, that you love doing, and your face lightens up whenever somebody proposes the structure? And of course, why?
Oh, unfortunately, there are so many. So I have to say, I have a favorite structure for groups, and then I have a favorite structure for personal stuff. So for my stuff, for groups, I always somehow end up doing Conversation Cafe because I find that it lets people do their own thinking and it really creates space for listening. Brilliant job for holding space for listening. And it builds immediately on people's insights. It's amazing how quickly people get to a deeper thought and then a first action.
Do you have an example in your mind, or some scenario where you would use it so people can have an idea how it looks like in practice?
The first thought that comes to mind is, for example, I used it with a very established, very core team who was having lots and lots of conflict. There was just a big mess in the dynamics. So there were newer people and more seasoned people, and people weren't listening. So very spontaneously, I said, okay, come on, I want everyone to think about this topic. And I stated the topic very clearly. And I said, you each get 1 minute, and then we're going to listen respectfully and just get your own thoughts in order. And we're just going to go one to the next, but just tell me very clearly what you're thinking about the topic. And there will be several rounds. So don't panic if you feel like you didn't get everything you wanted to say out in that 1 minute. And it was beautiful because the next round, of course, is when they talk about what they heard. So in a way, they already get to start co-creating or collaborating just by listening. And then they always have that moment where the extroverts or the people who need to think out loud, they can do that in that open space. And at the end, then those people who really need some sort of practical outcome of all this blah, 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 you can say, well, okay, what are your thoughts? What's the next thing that makes the most sense here? And it's very powerful. So I use, in fact, anytime even with the whole company, when we were talking about accountability, because people were frustrated about certain things not getting done.
As it happens in organizations.
Yes, yes. And of course, this organization was 40 people. So, and we were very, I would say, new work, very future of work. So very flat hierarchy. And whenever there was something that needed to be evolved in the company, I could open up a space, create an invitation, and those who cared about it and who wanted to do something about it would show up and we would have the conversation.
I love that. Like a recurring format,
Yes.
People know it, you don't have to introduce it, people know it, they know what happens. I love that. Do you feel like sharing your personal favorite structure?
Yeah. So I always, I do a combination of the 3 Ws and spiral journal. And I do it weekly for myself. So I have a kind of template in my journal, and it's for self-reflection and to see how have I progressed on certain challenges or goals that I have. And what I love about the 3 Ws is over the years, I've found ways to keep the intention, the progression of the 3 Ws, but ask them in very fun and silly ways that sort of crack open your thinking.
I love that. I love the three W's as well. One of the stories in the book that I wrote is also centering about three W's in personal use, and but in a more specific, like after talking with someone and then just to download your thoughts. But I love doing it on a recurring basis, weekly, just as a check-in. I love that idea so much. Thanks for sharing that. All right, we're heading towards the end of our conversation already. If somebody's listening, just starting liberating structures, starting on the journey, finding it interesting, and doesn't know where to start, do you have some practical advice for people? What helped you? You already talked a little about that, but do you have like some hints of what helped you and what might be relevant for someone just starting into liberating structures?
Yeah, take a deep breath before you do anything. Breathing, somehow that's the most fundamental thing, and most of us forget to breathe. And trust the process. So I would say in the community of practice, we have a design lab, and these are people who want to come and try the structures in a playful group so that they don't mess up. But of course, there's always some kind of mistake or mess up, always. And the consistent learning is not to trust the process. You do not have to teach people the process. You don't have to tell them what you're doing step by step. You do need to take them step by step, though. So you can be very explicit and say, so I would like to invite you to think about X, right? That's the invitation. And then you can say, and then the next step is, think about it for yourself. And in the next step, maybe find a partner. So you can be explicit and say, there's steps to this, and we're just going to take 2 minutes, or you've got 10 minutes, right? You articulate how much time it is, but you don't explain the entire process beforehand, because people then get lost in that instead of focusing on the context that they're working in. And what's beautiful is people will always, we're adaptive learning creatures, and we pick up on this stuff. So I always will say, trust the process and say yes to the mess, because even though people feel uncomfortable in the beginning and it's a little weird, they're smart, and they will always figure out that this is getting them further than if they were worried about what comes next.
Our last question in German is "und sonst." In English, what else? Anything else you feel like sharing? You feel like you wanted to add to the podcast, to the conversation? Is there anything else you'd like to share?
The thing that comes to mind is what I love about this practice is, I think most people find it first as a tool set, but it's truly a practice. So it's not just for facilitators or team leads. It's for leaders, and it's for parents, and it's for anyone that's trying to include everyone and get new ideas and do things better, do things differently. So it's a modern technology that I can't wait until it becomes sort of the norm.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Susanne. Thank you for the conversation and taking part in our little podcast here.
Thank you for having me.
You just listened to an episode of our podcast around the practical use of liberating structures. Every 2 weeks, there's a new episode in German language. Let us know if you've enjoyed this episode and want to hear more of it, maybe in English. We're looking forward to your feedback, of course, also in the form of likes and stars and follows and shares on your favorite platforms. Thank you so much, and I'm wishing you so much fun using liberating structures.